Well, I graduated from Robert E. Lee High School here in Baytown, and that was in 1955. And I immediately enrolled in Lee College. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I came under the influence of a couple of very talented, brilliant professors here, Joe Gillen and Clarence Schultz. They became kind of my mentor. Clarence taught history, and he got me very interested in American history. So I transferred to Sam Houston. At that time, Sam Houston was titled Sam Houston State Teachers College, and I finished there after 2 years, and I was fortunate. I got a job teaching history at Robert E. Lee High School. Ironically, just 4 years after I graduated from there. After I taught there some 3.5 years, I got a call from Clarence one night at home, and he suggested that I go visit with Dean Rundell at Lee College the next morning. So I did on my conference period, and much to my amazement, he offered me a job teaching at Lee College. Of course, I was thrilled. I was shocked, and I was thrilled. It appears that Joe Gillen and Clarence Schultz have been talking to some of my former students from high school to find out what kind of a teacher I was. So that began my 49-year career at Lee College. Some 30 years ago, several other faculty members, including myself, were in the faculty lounge. We got to discussing the possibility of having a team-taught honors course. Out of that came the beginnings of our honors program and an American Studies honors course. I was responsible for the history aspect of it, and I had several partners over the years who were responsible for the literature. And it was not a matter of me coming in and lecturing on history and then the literature teacher coming in and lecturing or talking about literature. We successfully integrated the two disciplines. Also, the courses were taught in a seminar fashion, where we were all sitting around a table, and while there were some lectures, there was a great deal of discussion. That fall, 5 of us drove to Huntsville on a Saturday. We went first of all to the Walls Unit, where we met with the legendary director of the Texas Department of Corrections, as it was called at that time, Dr. George Beto. We met the warden at the Walls, and also Lonzo Langley, who was the director of Educational Services and Recreation for the prison system. Then we had to backtrack and drop off Dale Adams, who teaches English at Gorey, which is south of Huntsville, which is the women's unit. Then 2 of us were driven to Ferguson, the unit for young first offenders, and then 2 more drove on to Ellis, a unit for recidivists. I didn't know what I was getting into, but it turned out to be one of the greatest and most rewarding experiences of my career as a teacher. I taught at Huntsville and Huntsville prison units and Sugar Land for the next 20 years, driving down once a week, sometimes twice, and then spending the night in the summer and teaching 2 classes one day and 2 the next. We saw lives turned around. Students that got into our programs and got a 2-year college degree while they were incarcerated rarely returned to prison when they were released. The 2 individuals that encouraged and inspired me the most were my 2 professors here at Lee College, Joe Gillen and Clarence Schultz. Clarence died several years ago, but Joe, who is 90 years old and has retired from teaching at Cochise College in Douglas, Arizona, is still teaching a course every semester. They were the ones that encouraged me to continue my education, to seek a master's degree, and they were responsible for my being hired here at Lee College. I've been very fortunate. My father, who was an executive with a gas transmission company, was very encouraging to me. He did not get to finish college during the Depression, and from the very beginning, it was a given that my brother and I would both go to college. Dad was also very pleased that I became a teacher. He had a great admiration for teachers. And my family has been very supportive. My wife, my two daughters, in fact, both of my daughters have actually been my students in the honors program. So they have been supportive of me throughout my entire career. Well, my advice to future generations is I hope you are as fortunate as I am. I hope you find a career that is satisfying and that you really love. I tell people quite often that as far as my teaching is concerned, I've never worked a day in my life. I look forward to walking into a classroom. And it's kind of interesting that when I get into a classroom, the entire world disappears. The only thing that I'm focusing on is what is happening in that classroom on that particular day. My legacy is my former students. I am very gratified that a number of them actually keep in touch with me, and I talk to them quite often. But the reward of my career is to see what these students have become, what they are accomplishing. I've got to the point in my career where in a couple of cases I'm actually teaching their children. And the fact that they would send their children to me, of course, is very, very gratifying. I would like to be remembered that I was always a positive influence and encouraged my students to accomplish the very best. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm very proud that many of my former honor students have kept in touch with me over the years, and we have actually become very personal friends. And I hope that my students will remember me as a positive influence on their lives, encouraging them to pursue whatever dreams they wanted to pursue. One of my former honor students is Karen Freeman. Karen Freeman is a Oglala Lakota Indian. She spent a good deal of her early life on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. She came to Lee College and got involved in the honors program, and today she has her own private academy. And she sends us some of her best students, including her son, who became one of our top honors students. A few months ago, Karen called me and wanted to know if I was going to be in my office. And I said yes. And she said, well, I want to come see you, for I have something for you. And she brought me this drum. It's a spirit drum. It was made especially for me on the Oglala Lakota Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. It took over a year for her to get it to me because it had to be played at certain ceremonies by each of the 7 keepers of wisdom of the Oglala Lakota tribe. And so they made me an honorary Oglala keeper of wisdom. And like I said, I'm very proud of this. It's one of my proudest possessions. And when I feel a lot of stress in the afternoon, I often get out the drum and play it a little bit. And it's amazing. The stress almost immediately disappears.